Hey, Kyle. Can you just update us on what you saw or just what Fred Warner's status is and just how he's dealt with the last week? And then also just how dependable he's been for you guys, entering his third season.
Yeah, Fred's back. He's good to go. I can't talk about too much of his week away, but Fred's been as reliable of a player that we've had. It's great to get him back today. We were obviously pretty nervous about that. But he's good to go, and we're very grateful he's going to be here. The rest of the guys that practice, Ayuk and Debo, likely not to practice today. Small chance, but I'd be surprised if they're out there. Verrett is out, and Garland should be limited today.
Kyle, you guys are going against a mobile quarterback again to start out the season. That was kind of more of a challenge last year. What have you seen from the defense that's going to help you get after that a little bit more this season?
That's always going to be a challenge. Anytime you got guys who can run around like this one can in particular, and how good of a thrower he is, that's always going to be a huge challenge. So you get used to going to this against the stuff. We had it twice last year, but I know there'll be a bunch of new wrinkles this time, especially with the first game and having all off season to think about it. But our defense knows what to expect from the personnel, and you got to be ready to react to the new stuff. But he's going to get some of his, and we just got to make sure to get more.
With the changes to the preseason schedule and just everything that you've had to deal with leading up to the opener, do you and the coaching staff have to kind of figure out how much you want to play your guys? I know certain positions lend to rotating more than others, but is that something that you have to think about, the workload that you're going to give guys week one?
Yeah, you got to know who's ready to go in and perform at a certain amount of plays, and especially, I think you had enough camp and stuff to get guys in shape to play football. I don't think you always need the preseason games to do that. The problem was that we did it in a crammed time. And so guys who missed some of that time, they didn't get it in the whole crammed time. So if you had all that time, then I don't think not having the games is a big issue. But not everyone did get that because of the wear and tear of training camp. So those guys you got to be smart about, evaluate where they're at all week. That's talking to the player. It's us looking at it, talking to the doctors, getting a lot of science involved that helps us with our decisions. But each guy's different, and you got to see how the game goes. But your main decision is you don't want to put a guy out there who's not in shape enough to pull off what you need him to pull off or to protect himself.
Hey, Kyle, I know the NFC West has always been kind of a difficult place and even more difficult now. I'm just curious how you assess the division going into this season, and is there any more emphasis on these division games, particularly in a season like this?
I think you do every year. I think if you look at, regardless of which year, usually the team who wins the most games in their division makes the playoffs. And if you don't do well in your division, very rarely do you find a way to make the playoffs. So I think that goes every year. I guess I could say maybe this year might be bigger, but it seems like the biggest factor each year. It'll be different without the crowd noise in the West that you usually have every place, so we'll see how that goes. But it's pretty much always as important as it is this year.
Kyle, have you guys finalized whatever the sound situation inside Levi's is going to be for Sunday? And,
yeah, it's more of a I think it's a consensus for the whole league. I believe it's 70 to 75. So we're going to decide on those two. We'll keep it a secret for some reason so they don't play with the right decibels the whole week, but we'll see if that's an advantage for us. We'll surprise them on Sunday.
There was a video clip of you calling it human torture. Just how much of an adjustment period is that for even the coaching staff, just procedurally?
I think it'll be a huge adjustment for everyone out there. You don't realize just what constant noise is like. It's not about being loud or too low. It's about just constant. Usually when the plays start, you get to hear the pop and you get to hear football. When things aren't going on, you can have conversations with people and stuff. So just the constant noise is a little tough to deal with, but fans won't be having to deal with it. That'll just be us. So hopefully we can make sure that doesn't affect our game, which it shouldn't. It's more about just irritation of it, and then you embrace it and realize that can't affect you unless you let it affect you, and you just go back to playing football.
Hey, Kyle, it's been noted as it relates to Jimmy, how quarterbacks in the second full season in your system have taken off. I guess Matt Schaub and Matt Ryan being the best examples. I'm sure it's not just, wasn't the same thing with those two quarterbacks, but in what ways did those guys improve in their second season, and could it be similar areas for Jimmy, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I think it does for most, positions and people too. I mean, if you're good enough, and the more you do something, usually the better you get at it. And especially when you have some continuity with the players around you. It's not always just the quarterback. Sometimes the other 10 guys, it's their second year in the system too. It's their third year, it's their fourth year. So your teams get better. You look at some of our guys in our first year and second year. I don't know if our team was better halfway through our second year with some of the stuff that was going on. So you don't always get to see that with the quarterback. But with Jimmy going through what he went through last year and being able to pull off the year that he did, especially with coming off that injury, he learned a lot and also played at a very high level. And to be able to go through that this year, having very similar players around him, the offense doesn't change. You just get better at it. And I think that'll definitely help him.
Hey, Kyle, now that training camp is through, with across the league a lot of success keeping the virus down, how optimistic are you that things are going to go smoothly throughout the whole season?
I don't expect it at all to go smoothly throughout the whole season, whether there's COVID or not COVID. You always, so many things happen in an NFL season that it's always a different team that you end with that you started with, just with the injuries and everything that happens. On top of that, putting in a pretty unprecedented thing that we are going through with the state of this pandemic and everything. I definitely expect things to happen, and you got to be ready to adjust to all of that. Everyone's going to do as good as they can, which I think we have as good of a situation as possible with that stuff. But you're expecting things to happen, and when it does, you deal with it the best you can. You make sure people are healthy and you're doing things the right way, and you hope you never have something where it makes it impossible to go out there and compete.
Hi, Kyle. George obviously didn't play much against the Cardinals last year, but he did have that highlight reel play against Budda Baker. I'm wondering, when you go back to that play and then back to George's development as a tight end, do you remember the first time when he showed that kind of cutting ability, not just the speed, but that kind of cutting ability to get open against such a smaller defensive back?
Yeah, George, since he's gotten here, George is a very talented guy. For our first time with him in training camp, we just felt very fortunate to get the guy that we got, where we got him. The way he moved around, the way he ran. He's only added size on himself since he's been here. And he's also gotten a lot healthier since he was his first couple of years. But the second year, the stuff that you could see him do with the football in his hands, not always in routes, but just the ability he has in the open field to run. On that one in particular, I thought it was more after the catch. He just had to throw him off of him to get him off of him in that situation. He's a sticky cover guy and as good of a safety as there is in this league. And George is as good of a tight end as there is in this league. So it's always been a fun matchup, even though it was small. Even though it was short to watch him last time. But I expect that being a really tough matchup for both guys for a long time.
Hey, Coach, I haven't seen what the air quality looks like in Santa Clara, but in San Francisco, it's orange. Have you seen, I know you're getting ready for a game, but have you seen any of these pictures on social media, and what are your thoughts about the air quality and what's going on in our state with the fires?
I haven't seen it on social media, but I've seen it out here. We just got back in from walkthrough, and it's orange out here, too. I feel like I'm in the book of Eli. It's like an apocalyptic state out there. But surprisingly, the air quality doesn't seem as bad as it looks. A few weeks ago when we had it, or last week, it got past 150 here for us. But today, when we were just out there 15 minutes ago, the air quality was at 69, I think, which isn't close to what it's been. But yeah, it definitely looked different out there.
Kyle, you had a lot of praise for Dante Pettis when early in training camp. I'm just wondering whether he followed through with that, for the rest of training camp and these recent practices, and how you feel about the prospect of him possibly starting, having a big game reps wise on Sunday.
Yeah, we got with two receivers up this week. With them being day to day, we're ready for any situation with the receivers. Whether Dante is going to play a lot, play a little, he's kind of in the same boat with about four other guys. But what I can say is Dante is so much more prepared right now for the season than he was last year at this time. Just the work he put in when he was away, the stuff I said earlier in the year, but it definitely hasn't changed. Everyone battled through camp and had some good days, some bad days, but Dante was so prepared for camp, fought through camp, the tough days, and I think took a number of steps forward as a receiver. And whether he gets his opportunity this week or some other time throughout the year, he's put himself in position to have a chance to be successful.
Hey, Kyle, I know in years past you might have waited a little later in the season to determine captains, but has that been something that's been determined so far?
Yes, they voted on it Saturday. I think I announced it Monday. There's 7 of them. I think last year we had 5. I think they changed the rules. We're allowed to have 8 this year. But the guys, if I can remember, we had Jimmy, Kittle, and then we had McGlinchey and Trent. Yep. And then on defense, we had Armstead, Sherman, and which one? And Fred. So we got 7 there. Room for one more if we decide to go that way.
Hey, Kyle, with everything different this offseason, no preseason, et cetera, mentally, does this week feel like a different week 1 at all than it has in the past?
Yeah, it definitely feels like a different week 1 because it's just we're such creatures of habits. And I'm doing the same thing I've done on every single Wednesday for the last 17 years. I mean, as far as getting ready for your Wednesday practice, you know how every Saturday is, every Sunday. You just have, the feelings that you have every year. And they're all a little different this year because we're off a little bit with our schedules and the process that we usually go through. But everyone's in the same boat. And so once you think about that and you realize like it's a little weird for everyone going out there and feeling their way. But once that game starts, it's week 1 like it always is. The crowd might not be there the same, which, I watched the NFC Championship game Sunday. They had it on TV here, and that was really cool to watch that on TV like a fan and to see how crazy our stadium was the last time we were in it and how cool that was. And I know how it was when we first got here, and it wasn't quite the same. And just the hard work and everything that the players put in to give the stadium something that exciting to be about. And watching it on TV, it pumped me up. But then you realize, oh man, like it's not going to be like that this Sunday, which you got to talk to the players about because that energy that our stadium started to get like last year, I mean, it fueled us. But I also want to remind the players that the way they played, I think, fueled the fans. And I think both people earned that. And it sucks for the fans that I think what we've earned and to get them to something to be excited about. It sucks that they can't come there and be a part of it with us. And that hit me more Sunday than anything, just watching it on my couch at home. But that's something we're going to have to deal with and create our own energy with that, something I think we have done in the past. And even though we know our fans are at home being crazy and loud, we're going to make sure that we hold it down the right way in the stadium.
We're on last one.
Hey, Kyle, the Cardinals led the league last year in 10 personnel usage under Kingsbury. And they were able to hit you guys on defense with a few big plays. So if you can just talk about just how difficult it is to prepare for an air raid offense and the challenge that it presents.
It is difficult. And and what Cliff's done such a good job of, it's not just air raid. I mean, he's taken a lot of things. I mean, the stuff that he's done in college has been very effective and causes a lot of problems for defenses. But he also throws a lot of other stuff out there that you got to respect and you got to do. So it's just the balance of their attack with the creativity that Cliff has and all the different things they can do. The quarterback who has the ability to do everything, whatever style they want to go with. So regardless of what personnel they're in, they're going to put you in some tough situations at all times. I mean, it's a sign of a good offense. It's put together well, and a lot of it is a little bit different, but there's a lot of similarities in everyone else too. And when you combine that with how they're coached, with the talent that they have, it's not a surprise at all how they ended up finishing up last year offensively, and I know they're going to be a real good offense this year too.